Hello and welcome to Ladder Anxiety with Proximace. This is a series I'm doing following on from Husky Starcraft's own Ladder Anxiety series, which is designed to kind of challenge people who are a bit afraid of getting on the ladder to get on, play some games and just generally have fun with Starcraft. So what I'm going to do is once a week I'm going to play a game, I'm going to record it, and then I'm going to record myself playing the replay and then put a little bit of commentary over the top and try and identify kind of areas in my play which were lacking, points I could improve, and kind of just general kind of ideas for what I was going for, whether it worked, whether it didn't work, whether I could have done anything different. So we'll swap over to the game, and here we are. So let's get going. So up in the top right here we have Zealot on Team EE87, and the bottom left here we have Proximace, which is me playing Zerg against Protoss. You'll notice this is the April Fool's Day version of StarCraft 2, where everyone's workers are Warhounds. Yeah, it's the return of the Warhound. Look at him in there, he looks so cool. And also overpowered, that's why I took him out. But anyway. So yeah, you can see me having a joke with the guy at the bottom there. But yeah, it was quite a shock to load into a game and find out that all of my drones look slightly different than I would normally expect. Now I'm doing an extractor trick here to get 11 out of 10 supply. You don't have to do it. I think it's technically better to do an Overlord on 9, but I like doing extractor trick. I've just always done it, so I'll keep on doing it. So yeah, not much is going on at the moment. Yeah, early game is fairly similar, unless anyone's doing anything crazy like proxy gates or 6 pooling or anything like that. So both of us are going pretty standard. He's going 1 gate on about 13 supply, which is fine, and I'm gonna go spawning pool on 15 again, which is pretty standard to get spawning pool out and then go for natural here. I think he has the Justicar pylon. I think it's the new skin that you can get for the pylon. I have the Ultralisk skin because I got the collector's edition for my birthday. So I am a bigger nerd than you, unless you have it, in which case we're the same size nerd. That's quite funny. A Warhound chasing Warhound. He tried to put a pylon down there. You saw it for a moment, but then he must have not shift clicked. He must have just clicked off to the side. So I managed to get my hatchery down without it being delayed too heavily, which is always good because they're always looking to delay. So here is adding on another gate for 2 gate with cybernetics core. So it's probably going to try and put on a bit of early 2 gate pressure. This gas was quite early, so it could be quite heavy on the stalkers, or he might get a mothership core and float it over this bit of land here and attack the mineral line or the spawning pool from here while pushing at the front, something like that. At the moment he's just zapping my hatchery. He's not going to do that much damage, so I just have a couple of Zerglings here to clear out that lingering Warhound. So at the moment our APM, that's the EAPM is. I'm not sure why they have 2 different APMs and they're vastly different in general, but oh well, they always have a reason. But yeah, so here's a mothership core coming out and a second gas. And then you Zealots at the moment. Oh, Zealot and Stalker. So quite a common early push for Protoss at the moment is to generally on 1 gate get a Zealot, then a Stalker and a mothership core, and then push into a Zerg because they're not going to have very much to defend it. I've taken a 3rd base. I've run the Zerglings that cleaned up that Warhound earlier over here to check whether he's got a natural. He hasn't, so I send my Zergling in here just to try and find out, because at the moment I have absolutely 0 scouting information. So I run in, I see 2 gates. Oh, that was very strange to hear. So he's got 2 gates, a cybernetics core and a mothership core, and I recognise this is kind of a standard early attack now with the mothership core, because Zerg doesn't really have anything that can shoot air that well apart from queens. So what I do is, I know this attack's coming, so I bring these queens to the front and my natural just to try and prevent myself from dying. I was a little bit supply blocked there, which is why I built 3 overlords at once, so that's something to improve there. Don't get a supply block when there's an attack coming, because at the moment I have 3 Zerglings that can't hold off 3 Stalkers and 1 Zealot. See, he's invested quite a lot more into his army than I have at the moment. So now I've got my big swell of Zerglings on the way, but I'm taking a lot of damage. I got my queen stuck there, and then I've just left this one basically to die. So, but these spine crawlers will finish soon, and we'll be able to hold off this ground army. So here comes the swell of Zerglings. Get a nice around here, and almost get us around that last Stalker, but don't quite. If he stutter stepped all the way back, he could take these out. They don't have metabolic boost yet. I've only just started it. In fact, there's something I could probably get a little bit earlier. I still have a bit of leftover gas, so I could probably got that earlier, but the more you know. So he's floating his Mothership Core back now as defense, because he's pushed out. He doesn't really have a lot back home. He's got 2 sentries and 2 stalkers, and this stalker, he didn't force field the ramp here, which is dumb because it means my Zerglings can get in and just give him a bit of a poke. He's built his base very tight because he didn't wall in, so he has built it very tight around, so it is very difficult to slip Zerglings in there, which is actually a good base design. And he's taken hidden expand over here because he knows I'm kind of standing outside the front of his main. He does force field his own Zealot Stalker. He's called Zealot, it's confusing. He's force fielded his own Stalker out there, and I nearly get it, and then I had to pull back. So I lost more Zerglings than I should have because I pulled away before it had actually been killed. So now I'm just droning up again and rebuilding queens. I built a Baneling nest, which I did by accident. I just double tapped B and then clicked and then just headed off to do something else. I think I tried to hit B Roach Warren, BR, but I didn't hit R. I just double tapped B and clicked and then just forgot about it. I do make 1 Baneling when I realise I had it, and then I'm going to be very sneaky and try and take it up around the edge here, around and into his mineral line, which I do in a little bit. So I've now got double Evo chamber coming down, which I tried to do to block off this, to just kind of make my natural a little bit more defendable, but unfortunately I placed them in the wrong way, and you can actually just run straight through it. It's probably not even Ultralisk proof. So he's got this base up and running, but he's not mining from it at the moment. He's not even producing probes there, and he is heavily saturated over here. It's about 6 probes too many on the here, and it's starting to thin out. If you've got a base, oh, there we go, that was my Baneling coming in. If I'd had a second one, I could have taken out a load more. So that's something to think about. I'd only really had the Bane nest by accident. I suppose I should have made better use of it than that, but I just thought, and he did way have reacted by, well, hindsight is 2020. Oh no, I got hit by something behind that I didn't notice. Better build cannons there so I don't get hit from behind again. So at the moment now I'm just getting my upgrades up. I'm now building the Roach Warren I wanted to in the first place. I'm getting Lair Tech up and another gas. So I'm now starting to tech up quite a bit. See, my money's very high. I could probably spend that a lot better by producing far more drones, but I am getting supply blocked every now and again. It's something I'm not very good at, and I need to pay more attention to this number up here. So I've just got my Zerglings clearing out this base. There wasn't much here, but he does lose a couple of probes, these 2 pylons and at Nexus. We'll just look at the income at the moment. I have about twice the amount of mineral income, and my gas is about the same because he only has 1 worker on this guy. So he actually has 2 guys, but he only has 1 worker. And I've supply blocked him by taking out this base, so he can't produce anything more for a little while. He has got a pylon on the way. That's not going to entirely alleviate it, but he is also taking out this natural. So that with that second pylon, that will unsupply block him. So he does have 1 Colossus now. So this army is a little bit more dangerous, just because, standard death ball, a couple of force fields, Zealots at the front, Colossus at the back. It's very hard for Zerglings and Roaches to push through it. I'm falling behind a little bit on my lava injects. Not too bad, they're not full of energy, but there's definitely time where I could be injecting lava, which I'm not. I'm getting very oversaturated on this base, but I was more trying to find out whether he had another base there. So my overlord gets taken out on the high ground, and then I run these in before realising that there's a Colossus there, and by that point I've already lost all of those Zerglings. So that's, but I did take out a reasonable amount of his ground forces, reduced them to quite low health in some instances, but I didn't get roach speed, which I actually forget to get for a little while. So I should have got that first. My roaches would have come in quite close on the tail of those Zerglings, whereas it was I ran in with Zerglings and then no roaches. So I'm building some static defences in the form of spine crawlers just on this third base, so that I'm a little bit better defended. So if they want to come and get me, they have to get through this choke point, or warp prism in, or blink, or whatever. But it just reduces the number of attack paths, because as I said, you can't really pure wall in. It's very difficult because you tend not to build that many buildings as such. You just build hatcheries and then unit structures. So, but 5 spine crawlers, it's a make them stop. And with the Colossus they can clear it out, but it'll be a time delay, in which case I can get some army here, get some army back here. But I'm also advancing the creep as I want to take this base as a 4th. So I'm clearing out these rocks at my choke because I saw a Colossus, and I don't want to be going through a little narrow choke where everything just gets laser beamed to death. So now this attack is coming down, so I've backed up here. I've split my army a little bit, and I'm going to move my spine crawlers. Unfortunately, I moved them right at the wrong time, so they're unburrowed for most of this battle. But I do have a lot of roaches sitting at the back. And the Zerglings absorbed a lot of damage, and then the spine crawlers are going to do it as well. They don't deal out too much, but it does mean that I can run my roaches in without having to worry about it. There goes down the lone force field, but I take out both his Colossus, and now it's just roaches versus stalkers. There is a void ray up there in the mothership core, but they're not putting out too much damage. And then there's a time warp, which is very late. If he'd done that right at the start, he probably would have crushed me, because that's just such a good slowing effect. So it's 50% movement speed slow, so he could have dropped those down and then backed off and just shot with the Colossus. So now he's trying to run in and just harass with here, but I get a transfuse on my queen. I've got all 3 queens up now. Get that void ray down and get down the mothership. So I'm just pushing forward my line and my creep. So now I have a reasonable force of roaches. He doesn't have a lot of ground army, but he is getting more void rays. He's also getting an immortal and some cannons to help defend this natural. He doesn't have many workers of the natural, and they're all still sitting up in his main base. This is something he needs to do as well, is that he has a reasonable amount of income still. 900 against 1500, and his gas, he's now fixed his gas, but his gas is a little low, and he has now transferring some workers down, but he needs to do this earlier, and he needs to do it with more workers, because he's now 1 under fully saturated in this base, but this base is missing a couple of mineral patches now. There's 3 left, there's 4 left, so he's lost 4, so he should only have about that many workers, maybe 8 to 10 workers on minerals and the others on gas. So now I'm pushing out. I have a large roach army. I've got 2 carapace, 1 armor, which is generally better against Protoss to get armor, but I am also working on 2-2 melee and 2-2 with ranged as well, and belatedly roach speed, which I should have got much earlier. And I'm also going Spire because I want to get some corruptors up in case he gets a couple more Colossi. You can see he's also using other bits of Stargate tech, because I've seen the Void Ray, so corruptors are good against those, but he's also getting out Oracles, so he's probably going to look to try and do a little bit of harassment here. He's also rebuilding his Colossus, so he's spending a lot of gas, because that's what he's got a lot of, because he's got these 4 guys is fully saturated, but basically only 1 mineral line saturated, so he's very gas heavy in terms of the income. So his gas is coming up towards mine, but his minerals is heavily below mine. So higher tech units are a good choice because they tend to be a lot lighter on the minerals in the balance between minerals and gas, so that's a good thing for him. So I'm now taking this 4th base. Again, these bases, this one here, I should have already had them by now, and I should have pushed this line a lot heavier now. But, you know, you learn. So I'm also getting some swarm hosts here because they're very good at harassing, because they spawn 3 units. They have a reasonable amount of life. Now, since they've had an update 160, so they actually do survive even if they get detected, just for a little bit, so you can probably get another set of these out and larvae out, and then just either retreat them, or that extra set will enable you to keep pushing. So he comes in and harasses with these oracles, but they ran past these 2 overlords I positioned at the top edge of the map, so I knew they were coming, and that enabled me to get a spore crawler rather, at each of my bases, so they were able to be fended off. I did lose Queen down here and a couple of workers, which is not ideal, but at the moment I'm getting maxed out. I have a lot of bank left, and I'm building some extra hatches just to enable myself to, when I'm maxed, if I lose army, I can just very quickly flood with units. So I run my army here, so use the larvae to take the first salvo and then run the roaches in. I don't realise he has vision with this observer, so my focus at the moment is right here, so I don't notice these get killed until he comes in with the void rays. I look back and there's nothing there. So I'm replacing the swarm hosts and adding in some corruptors as well to deal with the void rays, but at the moment I'm just clearing out all of his workers. I mean, at the moment he has 6 probes. I have 59 rather. So his income is non-existent now. He has to exist on this bank he has left up here, which he can, if he just went pure air, he could make a sizable force. I mean, he's got 5 void rays already, which is quite hard to deal with, things I don't actually have any proper anti-air. I very nearly target fired down this Nexus. It was very close, 69. It's a couple more roach attacks, but I did lose all my roaches, so it's not really an ideal trade, and I lost all my swarm hosts. So now I'm replacing everything. I should probably move this in sooner, but power of hindsight, 2020. So he's now taking belatedly his 3rd base. This is something I do need to improve, is that I do not have vision of this base, or this base. So he could have 3 bases there and could have had them for a little while, but I don't know. I see an attack coming here on the mini-map. I run my roaches over, but it's void rays and an immortal. So the immortal didn't actually attack my roaches, which is a bit odd, but I realise it's an air-based attack, so I bring my corruptors over. Sorry there, something stuck in my throat. So I move my ground army up to try and do the kind of the final killing blow, as it were. He doesn't really have any ground army as such. His Nexus is going to die. It's just more or less a case of clearing out his buildings and making sure I don't die to the air in the process. So he's now marching on this bottom base. A couple of corruptors spawn here. I should have turned them around much earlier to shoot and bring over these other ones as well much earlier. You can see I've got them selected, but I don't bring them over for a little while. So now I'm just sending up these because I don't really know what he's got in his base at the moment. I didn't have any vision up there. He could have had Colossus, but once he loses the rest of his void rays and sees this huge swarm coming in, he knows he can't really do much. So that's a victory for me, which is always fun. So let's have a look back on things I could have done. I could have expanded to this base and this base and this base much earlier, and I would have had an easy time defending it because most of the time his army was sat back here, unless he came out for a couple of attacks, but most of the time once his army was defeated I was sitting right at his front door, so I could have expanded a lot quicker. Not getting supply capped. Everybody gets supply capped at some point, so that's something I just need to work on. Just drones and overlords, like probes and pylons, but for the better race. Just in general, scouting. I didn't realise the Colossus was there until I ran into it. Again, I didn't realise the Voidways were there until I ran into them. And also just kind of general better unit control. Like when I ran my army over here and my Zerglings got here, my Roaches were still back here, so my Zerglings didn't have the beefy backup. They all died, and I lost quite a lot of my army, and then just had to wait to rebuild it. Again, making sure I don't build superfluous structures, or if I do, in the case of this Bane Nest, use them better, whereas rather than rolling in one Baneling, which just brings them down to low health, actually roll in two, so I do kill workers with that attack. And making sure to remember upgrades at the correct timing, because both the Gleo Reconstitution and Tunneling Claws were very, very much later than you would normally. I got the Enduring Locust just because it helps them. If you're assaulting up a ramp, it does mean they live a bit longer, so they can actually get up a little more distance, so you don't have to have your swarm hosts right up in the thick of the action, so you can sit them on somewhere that's a little easier to retreat from, such as back here, rather than sitting them right up here and here, and then they have to run back through this choke, which is easily force fielded, or just having units there. Okay, so it's always nice to have a victory. So we'll just exit out of this replay. There we are. So that was Ladder Anxiety episode 1, and hopefully I'll try to do this on a weekly basis, and I might spice it up by, rather than just doing a standard ladder match, I might try out custom maps like in the arcade, or maybe some 2v2s or just 1v1s with friends of mine, such as Con the French Terran, who does a load of streaming for French teams, and he also uploads some of those VODs onto his YouTube channel, which I recommend you check out if you're a native French speaker. He does do some in English language, and I think we were planning in the future at some point to do some dual casts, so that'll be brilliant. I'll try and vary the games up so it's not always a PVZ, some ZVZs or TVZs or something like that, so that'd be great. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.